This is how Israel Adesanya becomes the greatest middleweight of all time. But first, fight fans, make sure to clock in. Let's get ready to talk about some MMA. Israel Adesanya is one of the greatest middleweights of all time. He has not only held the belts for a multitude of years, has many title defenses, but has also lapped the division 2 times and was already going on 3. As fun as Izzy was to watch early on in his career, the fans really started to dislike him later in his career around the Jared Cannonier fights, second Robert Whittaker fights, just because of his boring fighting style. And someone who watched Israel Adesanya from the beginning, I do agree, you know what, towards the end of his reign, he did become more careful, jabbing and kicking his way to a decision victory. A notable thing that happened is when he walked out as The Undertaker in his fight versus Jared Cannonier, and people started making fun of that because they thought he was going to go in and murder this man. They thought he was going to go in and show an absolute beatdown, but he goes in there, jabs, keeps jabbing, stays at the end of his kicks, and goes to a point. It was one of the most boring fights. People started leaving at the end of the, I think it was a 5th and final round, just because of how boring it was. But needless to say, he was very dominant in his career. I think that was one of his last defenses, and really people thought what was next for him. They thought a third Robert Whittaker fight. Everybody else really wasn't ranked. Sean Strickland, again, at that time wasn't really a big name. He just got knocked out by Alex Pereira, and that man is the boogeyman of the division who came in and was signed to UFC just to bring Israel Adesanya a challenge. Remember, guys, Izzy got knocked out by Alex Pereira in their kickboxing match. I think they fought 2 times in kickboxing. One, Izzy lost a split decision to Alex Pereira, and the second one getting brutalized and getting brutally knocked out. He also needed an oxygen tank to get back up, and that's the one when his kid was making fun of Israel Adesanya. So with that being said, guys, you guys all saw it. Alex Pereira was in the division knock. He just knocked out Sean Strickland, and Dana White booked the fight. And that would be Izzy's first loss in the middleweight, in which he got TKO'd in the 5th round after winning every single round, which was absolutely crazy. When Alex Pereira needed to pull out the bag, he absolutely came in clutch and knocked out Israel Adesanya in front of his entire audience. You know what? And after that, a lot of people thought, because Izzy being a longtime champ, Uncle Dana booked a rematch, and people thought it was going to be a shutout again. There was clips of Pereira sparring. What's that guy that just knocked out Wilder? Zhang. He knocked out he was sparring a bunch of big ass boxers, big ass guys. He was looking deadly. People thought that Izzy was going to die this time. People thought that Alex Pereira was going to kill this man in their rematch. You know what? If you guys remember, the whole aura, yes, I'm saying aura, around Alex Pereira was that he was unstoppable when it came to Israel Adesanya. Adesanya could not beat this man at all. This was his boogeyman. This was his demons coming from his other sport to come haunt him in the UFC after talking shit. But needless to say, in the second fight, it looked like it was going to be the exact same as the first fight. You know what? Izzy was on the defensive. Izzy looked a lot slower. Izzy looked like he was going to get knocked out. And, you know, in the second round, he was kind of getting teed off on. But then out of nowhere, Israel Adesanya pulled that shit out of his ass and knocked out Alex Pereira in devastating fashion and hit one of the coldest celebrations we've ever seen as UFC fans. With him climbing the top of the sport and beating his former rival, his boogeyman, people thought what was next for him. And that's when we saw the African King, Dricus du Plessis, come out and knock out Robert Whittaker in their fight for the #1 contenders match. And when I say people thought he was going to get smoked by Izzy, did I think so too? Maybe a little bit. Was the hype a little biased? Yes. Dricus du Plessis does have that good wrestling and that power. He did put down Robert Whittaker. Izzy put down Robert Whittaker one time. I think Robert Whittaker got fucking finished by Dricus in the 1st round. I could be wrong though. After the UFC fight was announced, the fight wasn't going to happen just because DDP couldn't fight due to an injury. So the main event was booked, and it was going to be Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya, and that was looked at as an easy matchup for Izzy. It was going to be something to do in the meanwhile. Everybody thought this man was going to get knocked out, including me. I was like, why is Sean Strickland there? Does he deserve it? Yes, but is he a high-level fighter to be there? Not at the time. He was not. The fight was set, and when it started, Strickland started walking down Izzy and dropped him in the very 1st round. And what seemed like an unbeatable fighter, which was Izzy Adesanya, was now 3-2 in their last 5 fights, which Dutch means he got dominated by Sean Strickland. It was so surprising. He looks very old. You know, I was shocked because it looked like there was nothing Israel Adesanya could do against this man. After losing, Israel Adesanya took a break and talked about how he needed some rest. But in the meanwhile, Dricus would fight Sean Strickland, and they would have the fight for the middleweight title, and it would be an absolute banger. In this fight, Dricus would barely edge out Sean Strickland to win the belt, but people thought Sean Strickland got robbed. I do think he got robbed. Dana, Uncle Dana, the king of the UFC, thought he was robbed, so I think the judge got it wrong on that one. You know, after this, a lot of people did not know what was going to happen in the middleweight division, because you had people like ISREAL saying that they were not going to come back until he was 37. I think at the time he was 35, so he's going to take a 2-year hiatus, which I didn't really believe. But now the fight is set. It's going to be happening in Perth, Australia, and we're going to see who the fuck is the real king of Africa. I have my money on Israel Adesanya starching this man out. Even though he looked bad, I think he's going to take a break, reassess, and see what he has to do in this fight to win. And then he rematches that bum Sean Strickland. Whoa, hold up. Sean Strickland is not a bum. Sean Strickland is not a bum. He's a real gangster, a real fucking gangster that's about that shit. But what can make Izzy an amazing fighter is that if he becomes a 3-time champ with his title defenses, he might be considered the greatest middleweight of all time. Anderson Silva, you know, went undefeated for that long, went 17 fights undefeated. But you guys got to think about it. Once he lost it, it was gone. He already got it. Fucking went amazing on his title reign. You know, had a bunch of defenses. Lost it, then got it back. Beat a rival, then he might get it back again. If he gets it back, there might not be a debate for one of the greatest middleweights of all time. But let me know what you guys think. Are my MMA takes terrible? Make sure to watch my fucking Dustin Poirier video or my Alex Pereira video and see if you guys agree with my MMA takes. But with that being said, guys, make sure to comment down below. I will be responding to every single comment. And guys, don't forget the most important thing. Don't forget to uppercut that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.